Hi, I'm Cheryl, and this is episode 8 of the Wholehearted Hub. This is the last episode in February, and we've been talking about vulnerability. I've actually decided that we're going to keep talking about vulnerability, but today we're going to take a little bit of a different spin. We're going to do two things today. I'm going to present a word challenge, and then we're going to talk about ruinous empathy. So, I was at an on site meeting with a client on Friday, and it was a really great meeting. We were brainstorming, and he challenged me a few times on language. And if you know me, you know that I'm very particular about language. I love words. I love dissecting words. And I'm very careful about the words that I use. And sometimes I'll say, I might not use the right words here. And I invite being called on it. Um, but when I am called on it, it feels super vulnerable. And so I'm going to challenge you all on a couple of words. We're just going to start with two words. And I'm calling you on it. Or more so, I'm actually asking you to call yourself on it. And how this fits into vulnerability is that it feels vulnerable to be challenged and to challenge ourselves, but it's how we grow and how we get better. And who doesn't want to grow and get better? So I am going to channel the challenge I received and put it back onto all of you. For any of my coaching clients who might be watching this, they're used to me giving them word challenges. And today we're going to start with two words. So, the words I challenge you to pay attention to today in your vocabulary when you use them are number one, should. So, the word should, even if you look up the definition, I think the first definition that comes up is something like out of obligation, and typically when criticizing somebody, even ourselves. So think about the times that you use the word should, like, oh, I should be studying right now. I should be exercising right now. Oh, today I should fill in the blank. It's like a pressure, or what I like to say is like it's putting something out into the universe that we know we're likely not going to do, but that we feel as though we're supposed to for whatever reason. It's often not an intrinsic motivation. It's something that we feel externally like we should be doing, but not necessarily that we want to. So should comes with this like icky pressure, and we apply it to ourselves and to other people. So I challenge you to notice when you use the word should and think about what could replace it. Could you replace it with want to, get to, could? There are so many other things that you could replace it with, and see if the sentence still makes sense. Do you want to exercise? Do you want to study? Do you get to go outside? What would work for you? The second word is obviously. I'm very sensitive to the word obviously, and we throw it around all the time. And often when we use it, we're like, obviously that person, da, 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 or obviously I fill in the blank, but it's not necessarily obvious to the person that we're talking to. So it can be actually a very condescending word. And so I challenge you to pay attention to when you use the word obviously. Is it something that's obvious? Or is there potential that you are making somebody feel like they should know something that they maybe don't? Is there an opportunity for a different word that would be more suitable? We're so automated with some of the words that we use. And so I encourage you to pay attention, starting with those two. Challenge yourself and challenge others, because when we don't, we might fall into the category of ruinous empathy. For anyone who hasn't heard of ruinous empathy, it falls under if you've heard of radical candor, if you Google it, it'll come up on the radical candor website. But ruinous empathy is also known as nice. When you're nice to somebody, when you say something you think they want to hear that isn't necessarily what they need to hear, because perhaps you're afraid of the response that you might get if you say the hard thing, potentially hard thing, that's an assumption, that would really be beneficial to them. So let's look at an example. I work with a lot of organizations and with individuals. And an example might be in an organization when a manager comes to me and says, so and so isn't performing. They haven't been performing for a long time. And my question back is like, what feedback have you given them? What conversations have you had? What examples have you provided? Like, have you had a performance review where you've discussed this with them so that they have a clear understanding of what the shortcoming is? Oh, well, sort of. There's lots of different responses to that. But ruinous empathy is when we don't tell someone something that will actually make them better, but feels like a challenge, feels vulnerable, feels like it would make them vulnerable. And we struggle so much with that in life, in society. If you go on the Radical Candor website, the example that it gives is when you see someone with their fly down and you don't tell them that their fly is down, or like spinach in their teeth or whatever, because it's like, oh, it's embarrassing or vulnerable. But if you're willing to go there with them, show them the kindness of telling them that truth, then it helps them avoid the next person and the next person and the next person that will also see their fly down or spinach in their teeth. This could apply to so many things in our lives with people who we care about. And so we don't want to hurt their feelings, but really we're doing them a disservice by not caring about them enough to say the hard thing. So that niceness is actually ruinous empathy. We think we're being empathetic, but we're actually being unkind because we're not telling them the thing that they need to hear. So maybe that's a language challenge. Maybe it's telling them their fly is down, but I encourage you to try it out. So the challenge this week is to pay attention to your language. The words that I've given you to notice are should and obviously, and see where else in your life maybe that ruinous empathy shows up. And how can you show more kindness to the people that you love? Thank you for being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you never miss an episode. And I look forward to continuing to talk to you about vulnerability.